Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another tank for you in the German line, the Tier 7, and it is the VK 3002D. It is a rival for the Panther. It is Tier 7 medium tank. So let's have a look at the tech spec in blitzhanger.com. Now, if you're on the chocolate bar here, you can get the view range up a bit. So let's run that because we should do that with a medium tank. There are two gun options, 75mm and 88mm. I'm going to run the 88mm in the first game you're going to see, and then I'll run the 75mm in the second game. And 75mm has much better DPM. And the 75mm is very similar to what you would play on the Panther. So if you have experience using the Panthers with 75mm, that might be a better option on this tank for you. As you can see there, we have a look at the two guns, and the pen is actually better on the 75mm gun, which is unusual because it's a smaller caliber, and the DPM is better as well. So now this tank is a very typical German medium tank. It has frontal armor, it's fast, mobile, agile, gets around the map very well. You'll see here that, as always, I'm going to run refined gun and supercharge because I need to get that muzzle velocity up. And as we've discussed before many times on this channel, the muzzle velocity is extremely important because it is a critical factor in armor penetration using the F formula, which was developed by the US Navy. But of course, it stands for all gun penetration. And we've looked at that formula before, and we see that muzzle velocity is actually squared in that formula, so therefore it has an exponentially more positive effect on the possibilities of penetration. So that's why I always use supercharge to get that muzzle velocity up. Now, this tank is fast, mobile, as we said, gets around the map very well. Like all German medium tanks, it has some frontal armor, therefore it's quite typical of its genre. And you can get some really nice relative armor angles on it there if you look at the figures as they go on the top left. You can even do a bit of side scraping in this, as you can see. It gets really into the deep red figures there on the side. The turret is quite strong too. You can get some good bounces front on, and you can also get some bounces by turning the turret. You get some good relative armor numbers there too. On the sides and back, like all medium tanks, it is vulnerable. So you don't want to let the enemy come up behind you, and the sides of course should be penned as well. The tracks quite exposed, so therefore I'd run 2 repair kits, but then I always tend to run 2 repair kits anyway. It's sort of my belt and braces sort of approach to it. I really don't want to get caught out in the open by being tracked. It really leads to a very bad game experience and usually imminent death. So my recommendation is to run 2 repair kits. You can see here front on, against when you're top tier, this tank is going to do well. Against your peers, it's pretty okay too. And even up tiered, you may get the odd bounce, etc. Tactics, it says peekaboom, long range sniping, circle of death, and 1v1 brawl. So this is a good all round medium tank. I guess at this stage you've probably watched the medium tank guide that we have on channel. If you haven't watched it already, then please do so, because the tactics and the game theory that we talk about in that medium tank review are very applicable to this tank, because it is, by its very essence, a medium tank and very typical of its genre, particularly German medium tanks. So, as I said, 2 gun options. You're going to see a game with both of them. I'm going to start with the 88mm gun. It's on Canyon. Now, as I said, this is a typical medium tank, so we're going to go and scout, and we're going to go spot at B. For those of you who've played this map a lot, you're going to know that that is essential, and if you're in a lighter medium tank, you need to spot up B, because it gives you a view of what's going on across the whole map. It tells you where the enemy's going, informs your team, and determines the tactics and gameplay that you need to adopt if you want to be successful and to win the game on this map. So I can't see anybody yet, so I'm just going to decide to see if I can capture B. It's not always possible, because if your turret's sticking up, you can also often get smashed. But it looks like I am going to capture here. Plus, I am able to spot up the enemy, and I'm going to be able to put in some damage on them too. Stayed a little bit too long up there. That was a bit naive on my part. But spotted up the enemy, We know now where the comet is. We know the enemy meds are moving towards A, so we know they're there. So I'm going to try to put some shots into the comet here. As you can see, didn't get one through the turret, but now I got some angles onto the main body of the tank, onto the hull, and I'm going to put in some shots. You can see the tank is putting in some nice damage. It has decent reload as well. Not sure where the comet is just sitting there. Maybe I might have blown his modules with one of the shots. I take another hit there. I'm trying to try to clear off the comet, and I leave him very easy clear for one of my colleagues. Now I decide to push onto the Panther here. I decide to take some decisive action. I'm not going to get any shots on the M6, so I decide to push on to the Panther, the Jagdpanther, sorry, because I think that he is in a dangerous position now for my teammates. He can put some shots in from this elevated position. So I'm going to put one into the top of him here. I get a nice bounce, and you can see this is what we're talking about in the tech spec. We were talking about how the turret will give you some nice bounces. It's a strong turret in this tank. Push across here, and obviously the Jagdpanther has a significant disadvantage not having any turret himself, so he wasn't able to track me there. So I push on past him. I'm going to leave him one shot for one of my colleagues. I don't want to spend too much time out in the open. There we go. I leave him for one shot there, and my colleague is able to clear him off. There we see nice bounce on the front of the tank. I know I'm against a lower tier tank here, but still I'm getting some nice bounces there. And you can see this is the strength of German mediums when they have that frontal armor. When you're against lower caliber or lower tier tanks, you will get some nice bounces on it. Now look, let's be honest, you're not going to bounce off an IS-6 here unless you get extremely lucky, or an IS-3 if you're up against a big gun. But when you're up against a lower caliber gun or a lower tier tank, you always have a good chance of bouncing, especially if you keep moving, creating those angles. As we've always said, moving is grooving, stopping is dropping. You're not always going to bounce a shot, of course, but if you keep moving, you increase your chances exponentially of getting those bounces. Now I'm going to put some nice shots here into this Nashorn, and you can see just how good the gun is. Like all German tanks, the gun is very good, very accurate. And by the way, this is not the most accurate gun. The 75mm gun is more accurate, and maybe even a bit better than this. But this 88mm gun is quite fun. Also, you will see that in the next game when I'm using the 75mm, I do quite well. But I actually come a bit sticky at the end, and we'll have a look at that later on. Just wanted to slow that down here just to show just how good the gun is in this slow motion. Just catches him right there. You can see the shell moving across the valley, just catching the back of the Nashorn as he goes down. Really shows just how good and reliable the gun is in this tank, and that's why I love German tanks. I love playing German tanks, and maybe it's my favorite line, and why I don't like the Russian line so much. I know that's not the most popular opinion. Some people love the Russian tanks, but I just find the gun handling on German tanks to be far more reliable, and I just find the gun handling on the Russian tanks very patchy. But that's just my own personal preference, of course. So there we have Mastery Badge. I think I got the Scouting Badge as well, which in a medium tank, as I've always said, if you're in a medium or light tank, getting your Scouting Badge or getting your Patrol Duty badges is even more important than getting, say, Mastery Badges, because it shows you're doing your job well. You know, if you get a Mastery Badge, of course, it's always great to get, but you can't get a Mastery Badge every game. But you should be doing the basics in a medium tank: spotting, scouting, you know, flanking, moving around the map, being the CPU of the team, as we've said before, and you should be doing that in every game. So therefore, if you get the Scouting Badges I got here, you should pat yourself on the back, because you're really doing your job then as a medium tank. So that is the 88mm gun. Now we're going to have a look at the 75mm gun. We're going to have a look at the game on Falls Creek. Again, I'm going to play a typical medium tank role. I'm going to go to A. I'm going to try to cap, spot, and scout there. You can see the difference with the 75mm gun here. And as I said, this game goes really very well. I play well. we win the game, but in the end I come really a cropper, and I'm not sure if it's down to the gun or down to me or down to RNG. I've looked at the replay a couple of times, still can't really figure it out, but we'll have a look at that in due course. Now here I get into a situation where against 3 tanks here, but I just want to show you this is an example of how good and accurate the gun is. Look at that penetration over about 250 meters, really good. Plus I'm getting bounces, as we said, when it's a lower caliber gun as the T71 has, you will get bounces, and I get a lot of bounces here off the MT25 and the T71. They penned me a few times too. Just look at that shot as well, beautiful, massive 200 roll on it, really good. You can see that the reload here is not quite as good as it is on the Panther if you're running the same gun. It's 4.1 seconds against a 3.7 on the Panther, but you do have a little bit extra armor, etc., and you get an extra few bounces, so and the 4.1 seconds is still pretty good. I'm going to push on here, fluffed that shot, rushed it, but then see here, just I'm able to take a couple of more bounces from the MT25, push on up, take him out. Got another bounce there in the T71, so you can see that bounce there we just saw was on the side, so you can see when we looked at the tech spec, those relative armor angles you can get on the side, that was sort of a bit of a mobile side scraping there. Again, of course, it's against a lower caliber gun on the T71. Here we'll see where the frontal armor comes in. Look at that, just able to ram him, nice ram onto him, and that is always an option when you're playing against a light or medium tank, when you're in a German medium tank, because you have that frontal armor, and the ram of course is the round and never runs out. So nice smash on him too, got a bit of additional XP for ram damage on him, and now we can go and see if I can help my allies. So I'm actually going to come up here to see if I can clear the light tank and the T43. I took a bit of a pasting, you know, I had to give away some hit points to clear the T71 and the MT25, but we've done that, and now I'm going to try to see if I can clear these two guys to clear this flank up completely, and get one into the back of the T43, drop the adrenaline, get the other round in there, get a bounce off him, move him backwards. As we said in the last game too, when you move you create much more chances of getting a bounce than if you just sit still. I don't think that shot would have bounced off the T43 if I hadn't been moving backwards. You just make it more difficult. And then clear him, and now we've brought it down to a 4v2 situation from a 4v4 plus a capped, so a lot of XP there. Did a really good job for my team. Now I'm going to go after this SU-152 here, and he should be in theory a one shot, or maybe one and a bit, if I get lucky on a nice roll, one shot. But, and here's the problem, right, I can't pen him, and I don't know why. And I don't think it's the gun, because ironically, as we discussed earlier, the pen on the 75mm gun is slightly better than the pen on the 88mm. So I don't really know what happens here. I don't know whether Stalin is guiding his hand, as we often see the guys who love the Russian tanks are saying on the forums. If it's RNG, if it's me, maybe I'm just not aiming properly, I don't know. I mean, but I wasn't doing anything differently than I normally do. And you'll see I slow it right down here, and you'll see, so okay, that shot, maybe I got him on the angle, right, but this shot here, take my time, nothing happens. So, and I slowed it right down here just to have a look, so I line it up easily, right, and I'm aiming at the vulnerable armor part here. But when we slow it right down, you'll see the shell doesn't go where I'm aiming. The shell actually hits the mud flap, I think. If we have a look here, when the shell fires, I think it hits the mud flap, and that's why it doesn't go through. Now I actually fire again, a snapshot rolling off, and I'm here again, nothing happens. And fire again, I missed that, I missed him completely there. And now he's reloaded, and I just ran out of time. 4 shots, didn't go through. Okay, I fluffed probably one, maybe 2 of them. But certainly the one that we slowed down had a look at, I have no idea how that didn't go through. I think, let's say it's RNG, or maybe it's just me. Maybe just wasn't having a good day at the office that day. But anyway, So he cleared me off. Probably what I should have done was, while he was on the reload, pushed past him and hit him into the back or the side. On reflection, that's what I should have done, so probably should learn from my mistakes. I think that's exactly what I should have done there. But nonetheless, we still win the game, and I still deliver a mastery badge in this, so it's a mastery badge with both the guns. But I guess I wanted to show you that and slow it down, because I don't think it was the gun. So I don't think that it's fair to say that if I'd had the 88mm gun there, we would have penned them and would have cleared them. I don't think that's fair to say. I think it was more down to me. So probably lack of skill on my side, and a bit of RNG as well, and a bit of Stalin guiding his hand. Probably a bit of all of those things, all of the above. So let's just say that mess at the end there was down to me rather than the gun, because honestly, when you look at the stats, the muzzle velocity is better on the 75mm and has better pen. So both of those things should negate the fact that it's a smaller caliber gun. Anyway, as you can see, you can do well with both guns, leaving aside that anomaly at the end with the ISU. So let's have a quick recap. Typical German medium tank, has good frontal armour, as you can see. It will bounce some shots, particularly when you're against lower tiers and lower caliber guns. Also can do a bit of RAM. Two choices of guns, 88mm, 75mm, both good options. You can see you can get a mastery badge with both, you can perform well with both. The 75mm plays like the Panther, so if you have experience of playing the Panther with the 75mm, that might be a better option for you, because you can transfer that experience across. 88mm has more boom, but so it might be a bit more fun, has more pen, but there isn't really a bad decision. As you saw, both guns perform well on the tank, so really I guess it's all down to your own gameplay and what you prefer. It's a very fast tank, as you saw. It's agile, mobile. You can go and spot, scout, play as a medium tank. Should be played. You saw in the first game, got the scouting badge. I would use supercharged and refined gun, but then I usually always use those to maximize penetration. And it's basically down to mathematics, so and the mathematics never lies. I go with enhanced armor to get more bounces, and you saw I got some nice bounces there, particularly the one from T43. And if you angle up and move, you maximize those relative armor numbers, and you'll get a few more bounces too, so don't sit still in the tank. And this is a very typical medium tank. Plays as a medium tank should be played, and as I said, if you haven't watched the guide that's on channel, please do so. And I guess all that remains for me to say is thanks for watching. Cheers, Mush. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful, and pants off.